Michael Overlie, I am so excited for this conversation. I'm so thrilled to have you here today. How is everything going with you? And
if I was doing any better, I think I'd probably be you, Sandee.
Well, we were talking a little bit before this. We're both co-authors of The Change, Insights into Self-Empowerment. And I just, when I was reading your profile, and then also when you popped up on my calendar and I was looking at the Calendly thing, and it was just like, oh my gosh, he's the dog. Like, I love talking to anybody about dogs because it is something that's so near and dear to me. So before we get into your book and dive into the conversation, can you share with the audience, like, how did you get to where you are today? And also share a little bit about like what you do and how you work with people.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so really grateful to be here. So how did I get here? There was a lot of head banging on walls. There was getting arrested. There was alcohol. There was all these things in my life that I couldn't manage and control. And I did better at times and worse at times. And then a little over 5 years ago, my older brother died. He was like my big hero, right? And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. But it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Let me explain that. It tore me open. And from that place, I was able to release things that I didn't even know I had stuffed down in there. And what came from that was this awareness of who I was actually showing up as. And I didn't like that guy. I didn't like him at all. I was like, oh man, how come I didn't realize this? So from that moment on, I decided to show up different. I wanted to be different. I wanted to heal myself and help others find a way out of the anger and shame and rage and all the stuff that we keep bottled up. And I had this amazing dog at the time, because all of them that I had, I've got lessons from. But this dog was like turned out to be this little energy healer, and he like set this whole thing off for me.
Wow. So how did you realize that it was your dog that was helping you the most? And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. And hindsight is awesome. And I can talk about
the
lessons that I look back and go, oh, that's what he was doing. But as I was literally writhing in pain, right? This grief was pouring out of me. And this dog waited till I calmed down. And sorry, my dog just walked in. And he crawled up on my chest and just laid on me. And I felt something I had never felt before. And I couldn't explain it. I had no idea. I had to talk to other people about it to find out what was going on. And he was sharing energy with me. And I was like, I didn't know this was a thing. And that's how I started doing my thing. I became voracious, studying and training. And that's now what I help other people do is, when it comes down to it, if we can learn to manage our emotions and energy, we're going to do fantastic things in our lives.
I love that. Now, what is your dog's name?
The dog that helped me with that was Darby, and he left us last year.
Aw.
Yeah. He got sick quick, and he went out the way he wanted to. So
yeah,
that was good. It was fantastic. The dog I have now, her name is Indigo, and she's a pistol. She's a Belgian Shepherd, and she thinks she's an actual police dog, and so yeah, we're figuring stuff out.
So what was it about your brother's death that, because it sounded like you were like just torn inside out kind of thing. Were you able to like kind of pinpoint that loss and how that was a big trigger for you? Because I know my brother died as well, except I was 12 years old when it happened and he was only 19. And that was the catalyst to change my life. Because I spent a good 10 years just completely lost. And today I look at that and realize that happened for me, not to me. right? So what was it that really, like, when, now that you've gotten to the other side, when you look back on that experience, what is the thing that really helped you to realize that, things need to be different, things need to change?
Oh God, what a great question. I love the way you phrase that. So for me, I had a complete unaware state of not even knowing that I had emotions that ran this deep, that I had feelings that ran this deep, and that I had all these things that I not only had never dealt with, that I had just stacked on top of each other, shoving them in a closet or a box, however you want to look at it. So this opening, this sense of losing this one guy in my life who loved me so much, no matter what, it was like I lost everything. In that moment for me, I lost everything. It didn't matter where I was in the world, whatever was going on. I could call him 2 a.m. Yeah, hold on a second. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. He's gone. My hero's gone. And so that just devastated me. But in that process of allowing myself to just continue to let these things come, I started to make enough space for other things to show up, to be able to come in. And it was the ability and willingness to be really, really freaking uncomfortable is what really made all these changes stick, because I always ran from discomfort most of my life. So
Yeah.
his death was like the saddest thing ever. And it took that to open me up.
Mm. I always say, in order to grow, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's why I feel like so many people don't change and don't ever live the life that they could live, because that uncomfortableness is too much. Yeah.
It seems like it, right? But then once, God, I used to think the same way. I think I equated comfort with familiarity. So even though I wasn't happy in my life, I was like familiar with the way I ran my life, and change seemed scarier than staying where I was, because I thought it would be really uncomfortable. So my willingness then to become uncomfortable, I could do these little things at a time and go, oh, wow, that wasn't that big a deal. It seemed scary. I did it. I'm okay. I'm safe. Hey, let's do another one, right? And I think that's what it takes for some. For me, it did. One tiny little step, right? You don't have to do like a New Year's resolution 180 flip on anything. Just take one little step and go, all right, we're okay.
So let's talk about your book, Let Your Dog Lead. And you say that it's an invitation. And I like that. I like how that's worded. It's an introduction to a different way of being. He finds that high-performing men with dogs are more likely to do the work, get dirty, get uncomfortable, and find their path. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you're working with your clients, do they need a dog with them? Can you just explain that? Because that's what I'm not really clear on.
When this came to me, I'm like, has this even been done before? Right? And that just terrified me, because now, as far as I know, nobody's doing the same thing. So it's not my dog that helps them. Although when I meet people in person, my dog does amazing things. It's their dog, and it's their relationship and their bond and trust in that animal. So let me back up a little bit. Most men are really emotionally unaware. And we're kind of designed that way. We're brought up that way to only show a certain small few number of things and in certain ways. And when we're exposed to other things, we get really uncomfortable. So we don't know how to deal with a lot. But we let our guards down when we're with our dogs. Let's say nobody's home, we're on the couch. We can share whatever happened in our day. We can cuddle. We can baby talk. Whatever it is, we allow them into this space that we don't allow even our partners sometimes, and our parents and our siblings. So that dog has this in Because there's no expectation. There's no judgment, right? Your dog doesn't care if you're walking around in your tidy whities, with your belly hanging out, whatever. They don't care where you live, how much money you make, what you drive. None of that's important, right? All these things, all these stories and things we put on ourselves, they don't care. So that's where I access this other place for men. And it's just like, what? Really? My dog? Yeah, your dog.
Yeah. Dogs are powerful.
They are.
They are.
Too. I worked with a guy over he was not Saudi Arabia. He was Middle East, and he had a cat. He's like, can we do this? I'm like, heck yeah. Tell me what's going on with you and your cat. What drives you nuts? And he was blown away. His thing was he didn't know how to set limits, and his cat was setting limits all over him.
Well, yeah. In that case, the cat was being a mirror for him, for sure. Yeah. So years ago, I was in this speaking group. It's called Capital Speakers Group. I'm outside of Washington, D.C., and it was an organization that was originally started by some politicians' wives, and one of their first meetings was in the White House with Eleanor Roosevelt. So I was in this group, and what we did was you had classes where you had to learn how to write different types of speeches and that kind of thing. And the final day, we had to do a speech in front of the whole membership. It was 150 people. And I have it saved somewhere, but my speech was about the lessons I learned from my dogs. And it was like, this one taught me patience. This one taught me forgiveness. This one taught me love. But, I would, go into I used 3 of the dogs that I've had in my life. And I summed it up with, and it was just it was the coolest moment. And I said, we learned so many things from our dogs. And I said, no wonder they were given the name dog. After all, what is dog spelled backwards? And everybody went, oh! And there was people crying and they were just like, oh my gosh. Because I don't think people realize the power that dogs have. And it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of the examples that you've had and how people that you've worked with, how their lives have changed through this. Can you give some more insight into that?
Yeah. Here's a good example. I went and met with a man locally, and he misunderstood what I did. And so he thought I was a dog trainer. And so when I met him, he's like, yeah, she's doing this and this. I'm like, wait. I said, obviously, when we set up this meeting, I thought you understood what I do. And he's like, well, what do you do? And I told him, he goes, no, that's not why I reached out to you at all. Well, I said, it's okay. Come on, let's go. Let's grab a coffee. Let's grab a sit. And so he had his dog with him, and we sat and talked and went through things. And before I knew it, he's crying and unleashing all this stuff. It was fantastic. And his dog's behavior changed throughout the conversation. And I just said, okay, look at her now. And he looked at her, and she was super calm, relaxed. Body stance was just laid back. And he looked at me, and he's got tears in his eyes. He goes, the dog wasn't the problem, was she? And I just felt, no. So, yeah, it's fantastic. When we can relate these issues that we have and what the behaviors show up in our lives, how they correlate to everything else we do, the decisions we make, why we took this job, why I drive the car I do. I mean, it's all tied together, but we just can't see it, right? Most times, in American dream, we're living somebody else's dream, right? We don't trust to have our own viewpoint. Like, I can speak up for myself. I do have a voice, whatever it may be. Our dogs can show us that in the simplest of ways.
I love that. That's so cool, though. I'm glad that he was able to really put that together so quickly. Yeah.
Don't make any mistake. It doesn't normally happen that fast, right?
Yeah.
He was in this, marriage in the crapper, business stressing him out, all these things. He was already on the edge of being really freaked out, and he was just available and ready to do something or feel something different. He just didn't realize what was going on. He was displacing the problems onto his dog, and his dog was responding accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because we're all energy beings, but I believe that dogs are more in tune because of their instincts. Like they're much more in tune, like even, we have a 10-pound Yorkie poo who is just incredible. He's so much fun. And, if I like raise my tone of voice, he'll hover away, because they're like, oh no, like they think that you're going to get upset or whatever. But they're so responsive to our emotions.
Yeah. Well, their energy fields, their actual energy fields are much larger than ours by comparison.
Really?
Oh yeah. We've shrunk our energy down. We can't really sense things very far away from us. So we put so much power up into the melon there. And their fields are large, very large. Prey animals have an even larger energy field, like horses. Their energy fields are massive, and you can measure this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I didn't realize that because they've done so many studies on humans and our energy fields, but I didn't. So what is some of the research show in terms of animals and their energy fields?
You know how maybe you're having a real crappy day, and you feel like dog doo-doo, let's say, and your dog seeks you out, right? You didn't call your dog. You didn't say anything. Your dog senses the energetic change from you because of their energetic feelers, let's say, and they just come seek you out. And they'll know whether to be playful or just cuddly or just sit next to you and do nothing.
That's interesting.
You said it earlier, they're so much more in tune with their surroundings. Right? Their connection to nature, their connection to other energy fields in and around them.
We can learn so much from our dogs.
Oh, yeah.
I know. It's it's crazy. And to think that it's so sad that so many are abused and abandoned and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your products. Because you have, are those your products? Because I looked at, you have a website you listed in your bio.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm making some cool changes. I took my main website down. It redirects to a link tree that has like all these podcasts I've been on, free PDF versions of my books. I have my own podcast. It's called Dogs and Men Podcast. So there's a link for that there. So I wanted to create another invitation for people just to experience me in a different way, right? There's no pressure. There's no salesy, nothing. There's no, fill out my form. And I'm like, okay, this is fantastic. It's really interesting. So, the right people are finding me. Most of my stuff is word of mouth.
Yeah.
So it helps when your buddy convinces you that, yes, this is a real thing.
No, what I was talking about, it was, there's t-shirts, there's hats. Is that your?
Yeah,
that's so okay.
I created this online store where half the proceeds go to support a couple of nonprofits, I believe. Like half, 50% right off the top. And it's just dog-themed clothing. So
I love it.
All sorts of different sayings like "Love is my dogma." Who rescued who? I was rescued. She rescued me. Those kinds of things. It's fun. It's a nice way to support people who are out there doing great things. One of the organizations is Freedom Service Dogs. This organization is here in Colorado. Whoever receives one of their dogs doesn't pay a dime. And it costs up to $50,000 to train a dog to be a service animal.
Oh, okay. So, wow.
I mean, yeah, they've got their what together, and they do amazing things. They do dogs for PTSD and others. They do emotional support stuff as well, but they do people with physical disabilities, kids with autism, you name it. They're out there just creating these amazing service animals for people at no cost. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, Yeah, oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah. Well, before we finish up, Michael, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, that's what I was starting to get into a minute ago. So
Okay.
I'm creating this group of healers, therapists, coaches to work in the C-suite realm, so corporate executives, and we're doing something that's never been done before. We're going in and completely changing the way business is done from the inside out, but starting from
Oh,
the top down.
nice. And what is that called? And where can people find out more information about it?
Well, I don't even have a site up for it yet, but it's called Revivification, and that means to breathe life back into.
Wow, I love that.
So yeah, I've finally got my core team together. We've got 6 practitioners as a core group, and then I've got an outer ring of support coaches, healers, therapists. We've got sex therapists, nutrition, fitness. There's nothing we can't handle, right? They've never seen anything like this, so I'm really excited about it.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. So, if people want to reach out to you to find out more about that, where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, email me directly. That's fine. Michael@dogsandmen.com.
Michael@dogsandmen.com. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the work you're doing. It's incredible. I love that you bring in the dogs, that angle, or probably any pet would do, right? Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
It would be.
It's the bond between the person and that animal. That's
Right.
it. That's the key. You've been standing in front of this massive door that you thought you couldn't unlock, and you're holding the key in your hand the whole time.
I love that. That is incredible. I love that. Well, Michael, this has been such a pleasure to speak with you. I love everything you're doing. I'm such an honor to be a co-author with you in the Change Book series. And here's to doing great things. And we ought to collaborate a little bit more too.
I would love that. Yeah, I love what you're doing in the world and the people you help. It's fantastic. It's not just a calling, it's an honor. I'm like grateful, right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's just it. We're grateful to be doing what we're doing. And that's the key. All right. Well, thank you, Michael. And thank you to all the listeners today.
Thank you, Sandee.